today is, we call it Palm Sunday today. And what Palm Sunday is Jesus, when he was coming into Jerusalem, he was on a hill looking over the city. And it says that Jesus wept. And his heart had compassion for what he was looking at. And he had compassion. This was the beginning. This is called Holy Week, but we're going to get into it. And this is the beginning of, was I too low? Sorry. I usually yell if you guys are new here, so I'm trying not to do that today. It is the beginning of Holy Week, and this is Jesus leading up to the cross, to what we call Good Friday, what we're going to be talking about. But Jesus came up over this hill, and as he looked down onto the city, he wept, and it says he had compassion. He had compassion on these people, that he's this town he's about to go into, because they're this close to getting it. They're this close to getting it. Jesus is going to show himself right in their face, and they're going to miss it. But as Jesus went down into the town riding a donkey, these people were laying, the town came out, and the Jews and stuff were laying these palm branches down on the road. And what it is it's for royalty. Don't get your feet dirty. To keep you clean. Your feet shouldn't even touch the ground. We hold you at this high of esteem. And this went on as he came into the town. We're going to fast forward a week here. Not even a week. We're going to fast forward to that Friday. What we call Good Friday. After his triumphal entry, and this next Friday coming up is Good Friday, what is considered Good Friday. And we're going to talk about why as believers view this as a historical event, why this is almost a cornerstone in our lives for those who believe in Christ, why this is such a big deal. Because honestly, what's so good about Good Friday? It's pretty tragic, actually. But it's an amazing day for us as Christians. Those questions will be answered. If you guys would, turn to Isaiah 53, please, 1 through 10. We're going to get into it first. Right before Jeremiah. All right. You guys have? Sounding pretty weak, guys. It's getting weaker every week. Come on, there it is. Is it because I'm not yelling yet? Is that I'm going to put everyone to sleep tonight? Yeah. And what we're gonna read is a prophecy from Isaiah from 700 years ago before this. This is a long, long, long time before this. And so this is prophesying about the man of who Jesus is. So verse 53, starting in verse 1. Who has believed what we have heard? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? I'm just going to read it all and then we'll go back to it actually. He, speaking of Jesus, he grew up before him like a young plant, like a root out of the ground.
He didn't have an impressive form or majesty that we should look at him, no appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of suffering who knew what sickness was. He was like someone people turned away from. He was despised, and we didn't value him. Yet he himself bore our sickness, and he carried our pains. But we in turn regarded him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced because of our rebellion, crushed because of our iniquities. Punished for our peace was on him, and we are healed by his wounds. We all went astray like sheep. We all have turned to our own way, and the Lord has punished him for the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, and like sheep silent before her shears, he did not open his mouth. He was taken away because of oppression and judgment. And who considered his fate? For he was cut off from the land of the living. He was struck because of my people's rebellion. He was assigned a grave with the wicked. But he was with a rich man at his death, because he had done no violence and had not spoken deceitfully. Yet the Lord was pleased to crush him severely. When you make him a guilt offering, he will see his seed. He will prolong his days, and by his hand the Lord's pleasure will be accomplished. After his anguish, he will see again, or see light, I can't see, and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will carry their iniquities. Therefore I will give him the many as a portion, and he will receive the mighty as spoil, because he willingly submitted to death and was counted among the rebels. Yet he bore the sin of many and interceded for the rebels. This has been a tough message for me. We're going to work through it. Verses 2 and 3. It says Jesus was not a good-looking man by the world's standards. He wasn't somebody who caught your attention when you walked into a room. He didn't stand out. He was not a popular individual. He wasn't pleasing to the eye. He wasn't this herbal essence Jesus that we see plastered up on people's walls. It's not him. Hair flowing, lambs all around him. Looks like he uses better conditioner than most of us. You guys, not me. He was one of the many reasons the Pharisees had issues with. This is one of the many reasons Pharisees had issues with Jesus. They thought he was going to come as some well-known king with power. They thought he was coming to overthrow Rome with mighty war horses and legions of armies behind him. By the world's standards, that would be what is expected of royalty. They expected a beautiful man with great wealth. But instead, Jesus came looking like us. Like you and me. He had working man's hands. He was a dusty dude walking around. He wasn't riding horses everywhere. Dirty. He did not appear to the world like royalty. He looked like and lived among those he came to save. He looked like us. There wasn't anything special about him. Remember Mark 2:17, it was the first message that I gave at the program.
And it says that it says healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. And this is Jesus' words. I have not come to call the righteous, but I came to call sinners. It would make sense that he lived among us. He looked like us. He wasn't this leader of all Pharisees.
Verse 4, yet he himself bore our sickness and he carried our pains. But we in turn regarded him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. He felt everything that we feel. He felt sickness. He felt pain that we feel. This is the real Jesus. He is a real person. He was. And he still is. He was fully God and fully man. Jesus, like many little boys, when he got hurt or sick or was in pain, he ran to his mom for comfort. And Mary would hold the Son of God in her arms. And comfort and nurture Jesus. He was one of us. Moms, you know this. Your children has done this to you. He was no different. And she would love him back to health. He felt all the things that we do, so we could understand our pains and our hurts and our troubles. This is what makes him a great mediator. Verse 5, but he was pierced because of our rebellion, crushed because of our iniquities. Punished for our peace was on him, and we are healed by his wounds. As soon as Jesus started teaching, as soon as he started speaking truth, the more our rebellion against God became more prominent, more, and more. It became alive in a lot of people when he started talking about truth. Our sin became more visible. And in 6 it says, we all went astray like sheep. We all went astray like sheep. And back then, they all went astray like sheep. Nothing has changed. We all have turned away to our own way, it says. Just as we still do today. We do everything we can to fight and get rid of those feelings of being inadequate, of being not loved, or sin that is pointed out in our life. What do? We want to run from them and push it away. We want to get rid of it because we can't handle it. This is crushing me right now. I don't want to deal with this. That's what we did when Jesus stood face to face with these people. And we still do that today. I don't want to change because it's uncomfortable. And these people, standing face to face with God, and their sins become real, their best answer was, we need to get rid of him. Like we do today. I need him out of my life because he's making me feel like there's something wrong with me. There is. He's not there. Or you're choosing your sin above him. And unlike these people didn't do, and like we don't do, we're supposed to run to him to have him cleanse us of us. The sin out of our life. So they denied him as Savior and became even more ruthless, and the wrath of God had to come upon someone. It had to. God cannot lie. So when he says that sin must be punished, he means it. There is consequences to sin. And the only thing that can satisfy his wrath is a pure, sinless, blameless sacrifice. That was the only thing. Ephesians 2:3 says we are by nature, our very nature, children of wrath. Our very nature, we are born opposed to God. If we had to pay for our own sins, all of creation would have been wiped out 6,000 years ago. That flood that we hear about or heard about, that they make it look really cute in Sunday school classes and stuff, that would have knocked all of us out. Noah wasn't sinless. His family wasn't sinless. There is only one who could satisfy God's wrath for all time. And that is God himself. There was only one. So God put his wrath on himself, on his son, because he would be the only sacrifice that would be good enough to save his creation. And this blows my mind, because this isn't something that just happened. God was like, I got to do something now. What am I going to do? Here, I should send my son. This was planned before Adam even stepped foot in that garden. Not only was all sins and all pain and all sickness of the world was put on Jesus, but in the garden he sweated drops of blood. And this comes from being under severe stress. That this comes from pain that I don't think any of us have felt. I've never sweat drops of blood. Well, I have. I got my head split open before working, and then drops of blood came in. But not out of my pores. And because of that, because of all the sins that he felt that Friday, sitting in the garden, he sweat drops of blood. Immense pain came over him. And as you guys know, most of you know, when he was in the garden and he cried out to the Father, "Take this cup from me, it is too great. Please don't make me go through this. There has to be another way, Father. I'm in too much agony, I'm in too much grief. Help me, Father, I need you, just answer me." Silent. All of heaven goes quiet as he turns his back on his son. Not only does Jesus have to walk through this, the pain and the suffering and the sickness, he's now doing it alone. The Father turns his face from him. Verse 10. Yet the Lord was pleased to crush him severely. How could the Father be pleased to just turn his back on him? And not just that, but to crush him severely. It's because of you. That's why. It's because you were on his mind. You were the greater prize. He knew what would come out of Jesus' obedience, and it was worth it to him. I think of my youngest. can't sit there and watch him be crushed by anything. It's not my character. It's not. There is nothing that he wouldn't be willing to do to rescue you, to call you to himself, including giving his son up. This was portrayed on Good Friday. Sorry, I'm an emotional mess tonight. I just to think that someone would do this for me is so much greater than me. I can't even fathom. I think of my son, and I'm just like, there's no way. As Jesus walked through the punishment that was rightfully ours and endured the cross, everything in me believes that the man that was hanging next to him, while he felt alone, while Jesus felt just abandoned, I'm sure, this is what the wrath of God does. I truly believe that the man next to him reminded Jesus that it was worth it. You know, that guy that yelled, he's innocent. He's no criminal. Leave him alone. That thief, that scum that nobody wanted, that lust-driven, sexually immoral man, the cheater. I'm talking about you guys. It's not just him. That's me. Shorter time later, as Jesus hung on that cross, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." The same man that put nails in his hand. The man on this side, laughing at him, mocking him, making fun of him. The people spitting at him as he hangs on that cross and throwing rocks at him. Forgive them. They don't know what they do, Father. They don't know any better. And a little time later, he bowed his head and he said, "It is finished." So what's so good about this, you may say? While we were still enemies of God, while he endured the torture, being hung on a cross, beaten, whipped with a 9 of cattails, mocked, while we were still his enemies, he chose to send the sacrifice in his son for you, to reconcile you back to him. For some that means nothing, but to me that means everything. Because remember in verse 6 it says we all went astray. We couldn't do this ourselves. We can't do this ourselves. He poured out his wrath onto his son that was meant for us. Because we couldn't take this. It would have crushed us. Instead, the Lord was pleased to crush his son in your place. I don't care what walk of life you come from. I don't care what kind of mess you have in your life. He was crushed for you. like me, you'll look at this as an undeserving gift. Why me? How am I worth this? It is an undeserving gift. So why don't I cherish the gift like I should? Why do I continue to act the way I do? Why do I continue to sin and go against, even though He did this for me? One, because He knew I would continue to. I would be pulled astray and put other things in place of Him. But let me give you another beautiful piece of the character of God, and I take it as an amazing promise to me. Yeah, we stumble, fall, we continue to mess up. Ephesians 1:6 says this, I am sure of this, that He who started a good work in you will carry it unto completion until Christ comes back. You're right. I'm right. I don't deserve this. But He's not done with me yet. He's fixing me. He's sanctifying me. And He's not done with the mess that stands in front of you. And He's not done with any of you guys either. Many of you He just got started with. I'm in this 10 years. He just got started with me. He will bring it to completion. You guys need to hear this, sons and daughters of God. You did nothing to earn that. Nothing. You weren't good enough. You weren't doing all the right things. You did nothing. It's a gift. It's given freely. But let me tell you this. There's nothing you can do to get rid of His love either. It's nothing. You didn't earn it. You can't give it away. Jesus hung on that cross, and He said, it is finished. He meant it is finished. It's done. Stuff in your life, things going on with you, those things, it is finished. It is done. You do not surprise God by the things you continue to do in your life. He's not taken back for it. He paid the price already. Just got to stop going back to the crap. Do something a little different tonight. I want you guys to sit and listen to this song. We're going to listen to How He Loves again. And I want you to listen to the words. I want you to listen to the men that are speaking. You guys will come up to pray that I've asked to come up. If you guys want prayer, if any of you just like, man, I need something here. I need to pray. I need to be prayed for. Please come up and do it. If you want to just sit in your seat and pray, awesome. Do that. But what I ask is if anything that you guys sit and listen to these words and let them run over your life. Not just hear them, believe them. This is the God that we worship. He's dead serious about you.